Have you ever had the thought, if I go exercise, I'm just going to get hungrier? And maybe you are fasting or maybe you're not, but maybe you're in a fasting state. You're trying to make it through a space without some food. And you're like, I better not exercise because it might ramp up my hunger and then I might break my fasting and it might derail my progress. A thought like this is very common in our society. We are really taught that human beings, we need constant consumption in order to be able to function, and that when we're doing things, always got to be eating, doing something, eating. And so much of this, I believe, is because people are trying to sell us products to serve this problem that has been created, which is that we can't function without immediate fuel. But have you ever leaned into it? Can sound totally opposite from what we're told. We've been told exercise will always make us hungry, but under most circumstances, it will not. And today we are going to dive into science that has studied this and showed it. Exercise, especially as we turn up and lean in on the intensity of it. This is the season that we are in, leaning into our summer weight loss series. As we lean into exercise, it is triggering a process of exercise-induced appetite reduction. It is a natural biological suppression of hunger. Have you experienced it? I have experienced it, which is what led me to start talking about it yesterday. Yesterday, kind of the warm-up session to this, and then this here, a deep dive into the science to look at it. Many athletes that I've worked with, many people who are exercising do experience this. People on the stream yesterday saying, yeah, we get this effect. So I think we are stumbling into an area here that is really underappreciated as an effect. Stacking exercise on top of fasting does not make things harder under most circumstances, and we can actually use it as a tool. Many places in the literature that we're going to see show, okay, we can have these global reductions in appetite and then for a specific period of time. But have you ever heard of just using it as a tool to help you practice fasting? Because it is such a synergistic process. And as we layer these things together and lean into them, this is how we can create a flow for ourselves. If we're trying to lose weight, we're on a weight loss path. We're trying to get energy flowing out of the body, more flowing out than flowing in. And so many of the practices that we look at, that eating the healthiest food, a fasting space, exercise, our mental health, they all flow together. And here today in this session, we're going to really upgrade the thinking about how exercise flows in and supports a fasting process. We're going to dive deep on some hormones, including leptin resistance, which I'm going to help you understand. I have a couple papers that I'm going to go through on a very simple, superficial level so that it's not overwhelming in any way. And you let me know if I'm helping you to understand a hormone that most people never heard of, leptin. And I think it's very fascinating. I think you're really going to like it. It's definitely been my experience. If I am hungry in a space and I am trying to practice fasting, if I go work out, it's going to absolutely vaporize that. And so let's dive into the reasons why many people experience this. Here we go. First paper. So we're going to look at some short-term effects. And I'm not going to dive into this paper in detail. I put a link to all of these papers in the description. So if you want to dive into it, like I did, read through them, rip them apart, and then throw your questions, comments. We have a big discussion. I just highlight one sentence that summarizes the point that I wanted to make out of this. This study was looking at young men in their 20s who are already in good shape, appetite, food intake, and gut hormone response to intense aerobic exercise of different durations. The main thing I want to point out to you, they are getting suppression of ghrelin, okay? And remember, ghrelin is the hunger hormone. It makes us feel that experience of hunger, which is amazing. We've talked about ghrelin a lot on the channel and how it can be working to create hunger experiences at times when we normally would be eating. And so here we're seeing an exercise effect suppressing that. And then the thing that is most amazing to me, we see spike in GLP-1. And so we are in the GLP-1 era. And of course, people paying a lot of money for GLP-1s, and bless you if you are doing that and it's helping you. It's just fine. But how amazing is it to think, okay, GLP-1 is a natural part of the body, and it has physiologic effects. And there are many things that can affect GLP-1. We have talked about that, like eating the healthiest foods and improving the microbiome, and a fasting space in and of itself as we practice it can support this. But here is another avenue, that exercise showing direct impact on GLP-1. How amazing is that? Okay, so there's 2 short-term effects. And then this paper, exercise suppresses appetite in obesity. And I want to just take a look at these 2 sections for us because I thought it was so fascinating. This paper, yeah, worth a read. This overview may contribute, I say does, definitely, to developing evidence-based strategies for managing obesity. Sports scientists and fitness instructors, in collaboration with other health professionals like internal medicine physicians, y'all, may use the information provided in this study to design personalized exercise programs to suppress appetite. This is the thing, because we're getting into it. The effect is so widely acknowledged by people on a much broader level than I was even appreciating. I was just thinking like, oh, I kind of noticed this. Turns out many people, including researchers, really diving in. Can suppress appetite and augment weight loss. Yeah, even this next sentence, the mechanisms proposed in this paper might be brought into other approaches such as dietary supplements and behavioral therapies. That's what I'm saying. That's what we're doing. Is fasting a behavioral therapy? I say is a lifestyle, all right? So take this knowledge and the mechanisms in this paper and then bring it into these other processes to comprehensively optimize management. And this is, of course, what we want to do. We want to optimize everything. We want to make it as easy as possible. We have said, okay, fasting, I try to say, not necessarily easy, but we are trying to make it as easy as possible. And here is something that already we're seeing in short-term effects in the other paper. It's like helping to change the hormones. So many times it's been my long-standing belief that weight problems at its root are hormonal, and especially I've dialed in on insulin, and we'll talk a little more about that. But there's so many other hormones and things going on. So as we are looking at this, exercise suppresses appetite in individuals with obesity, irrespective to the type, duration, or intensity of the exercise. Now that sentence, I will tell you, I've read a lot of studies yesterday, and different studies disagree on that sentence. Although this is, I think, the newest article. But the general perspective is that the lowest level activity have the lowest effect, and the more intense activity that you drive it, the stronger the appetite suppression effect. So I think that it's true. Have you experienced it? Going for a walk even is a way to help to get through a hunger experience. So just walking absolutely can do it. in some studies, walking was pretty neutral, and in other studies, it was better. But, you know, this is the most optimistic way to phrase it, doing anything, is starting the process. I think we can say it that way. It's starting the process, and then our process, leaning in, is the type of thing that we want. Dial it in till we get the effect that we want, and we can talk more about how to do that. I just wanted to highlight the rest of this because it just shows how many different things are going on. The effect is mediated through various physiological and biochemical mechanisms. Exercise influences appetite regulatory hormones. Yeah, we got the Ghrelin, and then we bring in leptin, which I'm going to explain to you in detail. It's reducing hunger signals. Also, look at all these other things, you know, that it's like we just kind of blow over them. The myokines, the hepatokines, okay? We could probably do whole sessions on that. And then BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, felt to have a lot of influence on appetite. Isn't that fascinating? I've had requests. I know we got to do it. When we were talking about BDNF and its relationship to neurodegenerative diseases and other things, we've got to do a whole session. Here it is, positive effects with exercise on appetite. It's saying also affecting our core temperature, gastric emptying, all these other effects, our mental stress, temperature regulation during exercise, all impacting hunger levels. So all this stuff is on the short-term effects, that we're getting this effect right away, like in the moment while we are doing it. So we got the short-term effects, and then we also have longer-term effects. And so this paper I thought was really interesting. The vast majority of the papers that I was reading yesterday were all done in young people, like people in their early 20s who are fit, many of them who are not struggling with any kind of weight issue. And so this study was very thoughtful. This is also meta-analysis looking at 13 studies where all the participants are over 60, just to try to broaden our perspective of this and recognize that these effects are visible across the lifespan. It's not just in young, healthy people. There is evidence that all people have this effect. And so specifically getting into here, as we get into the longer term effects, this study is looking in the longer term about effects on leptin, which I wanted to really dive into. This systematic review, physical activity may reduce, hunger and in older adults. Decreases in fasting leptin. We're going to talk about that. Think of that. Decrease in fasting leptin. Put a pin in that. Decrease in glucose. These hormonal changes suggest that exercise programs promote satiety sensitivity. This is the key that I really want to dial into. Satiety sensitivity. Why is that such a key? We're going to get into it. Engaging in exercise and activity programs may provide a meaningful avenue for implementing chronic disease, reducing the chronic disease burden later in life, promoting appetite control. Helping us control energy intake. So this is fascinating. We think of, tell me if this has been your experience or perspective. We think of exercise primarily as just burning the calories. It's like we've got to exercise and burn the calories, and then it's a battle so that we have to keep them coming in again. But what we can see in this literature, I'm showing you 3 papers, just very briefly, try to give you the highlights, are showing Okay, this is not what a lot of literature says. Exercise, as much as it is helpful in burning calories off, it's got just as much to do with keeping them coming in and helping us to actually find a peaceful, comfortable state with our eating. And this is what is fascinating as you dive into it. And so as I am coming together, both with my experience working with many people who have the effect, I'm very happy to hear what your experience is with it, is like, here is actually a very powerful tool that is getting into our physiology in a really deep way, not just to burn off energy that is there, but actually to help us control the hormonal structure that is determining whether we're hungry or not. Because isn't this such a huge thing? So to summarize these effects, we've got many short-term benefits documented in the literature. More GLP-1, which is such a good thing, and getting it naturally without side effects. And then suppressing Ghrelin, altering our BDNF, which has got to be another topic because I just read it and I don't even know, how is that affecting our appetite? But I want to know. We're going to know. Hey, welcome. Nice to have you here. Leaning into the 30-day challenge. Today is day 1 for me. Hey, that's awesome. Had some cravings over the past 2 days. That is just fine. Really great to have you here. Dive in with some of this thinking and see if this sort of perspective can be helpful as you lean into it. Summertime, to me, this is the time to lean into all of this sort of thinking. I was saying the other day, make hay while the sun shines. We have the wind at our backs here in the weight loss space. It's warmer days. The sun is shining, and so many things that we went through yesterday. So, and here we are seeing, yesterday in the session, I said I haven't really dove into the literature. I wasn't even that aware of it, honestly. Just didn't spend the time, didn't have the time to say, what does the science actually say about this effect? Turns out there's tons of science on it showing that we can get these hormonal effects in the body, and this is what is fascinating to me. And so we've got the longer-term effects then on leptin, and this is where I really want to dive into, because nobody really talking much about leptin. So what is it? Oh, I wanted to give an analogy just to help us build it out and understand it. From insulin resistance. So we understand that insulin is a hormone. We understand that we can get insulin resistant, and that this is what is leading to weight gain and type 2 diabetes in many, in pretty much most cases. So I just took this off the Cleveland Clinic website. What is insulin resistance? Insulin resistance happens when cells, and I really love how they split this out, muscle, fat, and liver, because we are differentially insulin resistant in different tissues, and these lead to different effects. When cells are not responding to insulin as they should. Now, that's basically true, but if we go another layer deeper, I have a real increasing belief that the body isn't really broken in these conditions. It's the environment that is broken. And the cells actually are responding as they should, because if you look at fatty liver disease, for example, the cells were not insulin resistant, and they're getting jammed full of energy because the environment had too much sugar, too much energy. The cells are being damaged, and insulin resistance is actually a defense mechanism that is protecting cells from energy overload. And so, we just have to take the pressure off the system, and then we can see that the insulin resistance can come down. But this is basically as a way to understand it. Okay, the insulin isn't working. It isn't bringing the sugar into the cells. And many natural systems are like this in the body. We have some sort of hormone. We have a receptor. When the balance is shifted and the hormone is higher, then the receptors downregulate. And then it goes the opposite. As the hormone comes down, then the receptors can upregulate again. And so we see this overall. So we can use our understanding of insulin resistance, let me know if that is making sense to you, to understand leptin and then leptin resistance. So what is leptin? Okay. Leptin is like the opposite of ghrelin as a way to think about it first. If ghrelin is the hunger hormone, remember we said that's the thing that gets the stomach going, it's what's making us feel hungry, then leptin is like the satiety hormone. It's the hormone that is helping us to feel content. And isn't this what we want, right? We say we want to feel content. If we're trying to go through a fasting space, we don't want to be feeling hungry the whole time. And leptin is something that is sending that signal. Okay, leptin is made in body fat cells, and it is communicating a message from body fat cells that's saying, hey, we don't need any more energy in here. It's like fat cells are full, right? Because we can send energy into them, they can release energy out of them, and leptin is part of what is bringing this into balance in the normal state of the body. Here is where we get into a tricky cycle with it. Weight gain drives higher leptin levels. So as more body fat cells are producing leptin, and those cells do not need any more energy, they're sending the signal. So we can get into this space where as weight goes up, leptin levels are going up. So I'm trying to give you a window into how the hormones are communicating in the body. I think it's so fascinating. And so now we can see, just like with insulin resistance, chronically high leptin is driving leptin resistance. And so what does it look like when we are insulin resistant, right? Well, we're supposed to have insulin and it's driving down sugar, but now we're in insulin resistant and we got tons of insulin, but the sugar's high. And so we're seeing we're ending up in an opposite space, even though the hormone is higher. Can you see this pattern that we can get into with leptin resistance? Whereas like the body's trying to send the message, like turning the hunger switch off, and it keeps amping up that signal higher and higher, but now the body is burned out to it. And so we don't get that message. Body doesn't get the message. It's almost like the leptin is none. It's like we're getting none of the signal that says, oh, we're full and we don't need energy, right? So this is how we answer this. How do high levels of a satiety hormone end up driving weight gain? Because you end up getting resistance to it, and then the signal goes away. And so you can end up in a bad place. Look at this person dealing with stress, okay? Think of cortisol. Think of how so many hormones are like this in the body. Cortisol is an anti-inflammatory hormone. And in the short term, in low levels, it helps to actually repair things in the body. But when the cortisol is driven out of its normal range by chronic stress and trauma and all the difficulty, it has a totally opposite effect. And we did that session back a while ago where we saw how chronic stress and chronic cortisol is actually pro-inflammatory and is upstream of so many diseases in the body. So you're starting to get the feel. Here we got 3 different hormones, insulin, leptin, and cortisol. And then so many other things are like this. Hormones are messages, and it's not just one message. Different levels and patterns of hormones in the body can end up sending different signals. And so we end up in this space with leptin resistance. Fat cells are screaming like we have plenty of energy here, but the brain is not hearing the message. Brain thinks there's like no energy here, and it can trigger this hunger cycle. And I think so many people I think are stuck in that. Have you ever been in that personally? I know I have, where it's like, oh, you feel hungry all the time. And so many of these things are like hormonal. And I say, how do you get out of it? How do you reset leptin resistance? Is basically the same thing as resetting insulin resistance. Thank goodness we don't have to learn some giant new process. Exercise, especially in the short term, is like the process to help unwind it, which is amazing. And so if we are stuck in a cycle of eating and we have patterns where it's like, oh, I am always feeling hungry, and how do I get out of it? And we've talked about, okay, fasting space paradoxically can be helping for many reasons. It's helping our microbiome, which is feeding together with satiety hormones, and it can help with natural GLP-1. And so here we're seeing exercise doing the same thing, giving us hormone-altering effects with GLP-1 and Ghrelin. And then every time we go around this cycle, exercise can help to be resetting this leptin level, which is like the return of satiety sensitivity. That's what I was getting from this paper. Satiety sensitivity, it's like when the leptin resistance is there, the signal that is trying to tell our brain, like, everything is okay and we don't need anything else to eat right now, it's like burned out. Exercise giving us a space that can reset that means like turn the hunger off again. Wouldn't that be nice? Like, isn't that what we want? Absolutely. So strategic exercise is a tool that I am seeing in this space that is so much more profound than I have even appreciated in the past. The ideal scenario, if you're struggling with cravings at a specific time, maybe you're keeping a pocket journal like we were saying in the other session, it's like you're seeing when a stress is hitting. The ideal scenario would be able to target exercise around that, maybe an hour ahead of time, because the most powerful effects of an exercise going to last, 1 to 4 hours, depending on how intense it is and how, your physiology responds to this. Now, obviously, we have to work. Sometimes our most stressful things at work. And so second best is just whenever, it works in your life to do it. If you can do it ahead of time in an effect, and then that can carry over, of course, that's beneficial. If it just doesn't work in life and you're doing it later, some of these studies we were saying yesterday that we're looking at is just showing whenever you put exercise into your life, it is helping, like in everywhere, it's helping to make you stronger. And globally now we can see the hormonal basis for how even cycles, maybe you're not getting that short-term effect helping with a craving right there, but it can be helping to reset a leptin level. And then, of course, then that is going to feed back everything into balance. When I was on track, the comment, losing weight, training almost every day, doing OMAD, fasting felt great. Yet I was told my cortisol was probably high and it's dangerous. So confusing. Yeah, I can really appreciate that. This space that we are in, the nutrition space, the health space, weight loss, dieting, I just picture it from my perspective as somebody like in the giant mix of it and trying to help people walk forward in a way. It feels like standing like in the middle of a hurricane swirling around as this person is saying that and this person is saying that. The reflection that I have on this comment specifically is how amazing it is that we can be on a track and all these good things can happen and that we can actually be derailed by the healthcare system. And I have just seen this so many times, and I feel very badly about it. I'm thinking of a time specifically. I had a patient who had a heart attack, ended up having some stents placed. This patient was very, very overweight, struggling severely with their weight, and they had type 2 diabetes, and they came in for a consult through the weight management program at the university. And they said, this, and many times things go this way, right? We have a wake-up call. They say heart attack. They did not die, thank God. And say, hey, I've got to go in a different direction. Can you help me go in a different direction in my life? And so I just talk through different, avenues and the exercise and the healthy eating. And then I just present to people physiology of fasting. Like, here's something that could, really boost the progress. And this patient, over the course of a year, was able to lose 80 pounds. Basically, the type 2 diabetes went away. They're off all their meds, except, the cardiologists have them on the statin and a blood pressure med, but they could barely tolerate the blood pressure med because the blood pressure is going down. And the patients have felt the best that they've ever felt. And the cardiologist was so mad. They were so mad. And they called me. They were so angry. You can't have my patient fasting. I'm like, well, it's my patient, And actually, they've lost 80 pounds. Their diabetes is gone. Their blood pressure is better. They're feeling better than they ever have. And it's like, and they're telling them directly not to do it. I was like, you're going to tell this person, go back and start eating how it was giving them a heart attack? And it's like, oh man. So I'm not giving anybody any medical advice, you know. I'm internet guy, see all my disclaimers. You know, I'm sharing a perspective that fasting is a very thoughtful, open space. It's the type of space that you can get into when you approach it from a gentle and thoughtful perspective that can get us into a parasympathetic flow that can diminish the cortisol. I think the average person and the average healthcare provider is seeing fasting from a certain point of view. It's a very biased, and from my perspective, not completely informed perspective, maybe they would say that about me. Okay, let's have a dialogue. Anybody who disagrees, I say, come on, I can host you live on the show. We talk it out. I've had so many discussions with people who disagree about fasting. We just need a big societal dialogue. But people see, you know, people from a very cynical perspective say, oh, fasting is starving yourself. People talk like that. I despise language like that. But yet many people see it that way, and people see white knuckling it through it and say, oh, I'm just going to starve my way to health. And okay, from a certain mindset, someone could do that, and that's not fasting. See, to me, fasting is openness, should feel positive and joyful and good, and at the most intense part of it, should feel like a calling and something that you want to do out of a deep respect for the body, giving the body a gift. And it's okay to go through something that is a struggle and difficult, but not pushing us over into a place of suffering. If we are suffering and in a bad state, absolutely, could you raise a cortisol? You could. And so, you know, as I'm talking through it, you know, with the comment, you know, be mindful, you know, of it, and think, is this person having a thoughtful perspective? We can learn from everyone's perspectives. We don't want anybody to be in a scenario where our cortisol is extreme and we're stressing ourselves out. But fasting can be approached from a place that's so thoughtful that take us to the opposite place. And so this is why I think it's important to have open space, have deep conversations to get into it. To close the loop on it, I would say, if you've been in a place in your life, anybody out there, okay, where you are on track, you said, you know, I was using some health tools and they were going so well. I was like, let's just take a note of that, you know? It's like that physiology hasn't disappeared from your system. You can get back to a place like that. I did the session the other day, restarting fasting. Right? It's like we talk a lot about starting the first time. I did the session on restarting, is that actually restarting can be harder than starting, because now it's like you were in a space and things were working, and then we tend to remember like the peak of our experience, and then we start over, and we're like, how come it isn't like that? But we kind of forget about the process that had to build up to get there. Yeah, many people have had an experience like this, you know, and, you know, I think everybody learning, everybody trying to do their best. I'm sure a person you were dealing with, you know, sincerely in their heart, probably trying to give good advice and be helpful. And it's very hard in this system because there are so many conflicting sources and so much money and so many things pushing things. Yeah, if you can find something that is working for you, I just have, I say, pay attention to that. Leaning in, this is where I've been going with this practice, strategic exercise, as I've been reading through all of the literature, some literature, supporting the idea, any amount, even the very smallest levels. And I do resonate with that. You know, if you are struggling with a hunger space, just to take a walk, a gentle walk is something that can help you like walk through it literally. And so there can be some appetite suppression, mitigation, just from the lowest levels of activity. The literature that I have reviewed, many studies, very clear that the higher the intensity of the exercise, the stronger and longer and more durable that effect is. So high intensity interval training, at the top end, like sprinting and heavy weightlifting, would be like maximizing that effect. And then between these two spaces is the space where you want to be very thoughtful and dial in on it. So to try to get like a hunger crushing sort of effect, we're talking about dialing in intensity. Just want to make sure everybody watch the video from yesterday. I'm not going to give, a giant 10-minute disclaimer again, but I talked through all the important things yesterday, making sure that we are staying hydrated, that we are avoiding, heat in the summer, and that we don't injure ourselves by doing more than our body is prepared to. Always making sure that we do have a trusted medical provider on our team that we can discuss our situations. If you're going to start any kind of new exercise routine, especially if you're taking medications, have medical conditions, you want somebody who can understand your situation and really give you a thoughtful perspective on it. Don't jump from 0 to 100, in one day. That's what the lean in dial is, both with fasting, with exercise, with anything in health. We want to lean into it gently so that it can be sustainable, so we don't hurt ourselves, so we don't create any sort of negative experience for ourselves. If you get an idea, I'm going to start a new health practice, and it really is a good health practice, you want to lean into it gently and slowly, because what if you lean in too hard and you have a bad experience, and then it's like it really is, then we've got another barrier to overcome. This is why slow and steady wins the race. Yeah, I say that, absolutely. So if you need an effect, if you say, Dr. Z, I'm doing it, I'm not getting the effect I want, okay, lean in, see if you do, because the literature pretty keen that the higher intensity the effect, the stronger the effect. Marie is here, just finished 30 minutes on the bike listening to you, 19 hours fasting, had a big lunch yesterday, so not really hungry. Hey, this is a beautiful space. I just love that you're having that experience and that you're trying it out. And as we lean into it, this is the type of thing I want to put in people's mind. This is what fasting is to me. As a base, 2 meals a day in a 6 to 8 hour window. Just remembering so many of the fasting studies that say fasting, they aren't really doing something like this. We're trying to say, okay, look at the green arrow, 6 hours eating, 12 hours to flip us over into a space is opening up 6 physiologic hours in the day where our insulin level is dropping. We're actually getting access to that energy. And then the tighter we make our eating window, think of shrinking that green little arrow there, is opening up that golden window on the other side. Think of OMAD, when we shrink that green arrow all the way down to kind of 1, then we opening up, half the days, like we flip over and then we've got this big space. You thoughtfully and gently put some exercise into one of those golden windows. It can be anywhere in there, and you don't have to cut it off right away. You put the exercise in the window. This is the thing that is so interesting to me. Then using it as a tool to make flowing through that latter part of the window easier. Because, right, if you are starting and fasting in the morning, you say, okay, I just slept through a lot of it. That's like easy mode. As long as you can get to sleep, okay. And then can the exercise help you flow through that type of space without needing so many supplements and other sort of things. So the thing that I've been thinking about in these last 2 days, having really been some diving in on fasting exercise, is just appreciating the synergy of it in a deeper way than I think I even have in the past. I've always been a big exerciser, always been a big faster, always loved both of them. But like really leaning into it here and seeing how one really supports the other. It's just like total support, like fasting space so beautiful for exercise, so much more comfortable to exercise in that space, not lugging around a stomach full of food and feeling all the conflict where we're trying to send the blood flow there. Like, have you had it where you ate a bunch and then you try to go exercise, you get like cramped up and it's just like system is like, does not feel good. And so fasting can make our exercise such a more pleasant experience. Like as we train to it, and I told the stories yesterday, the first times you start at it can be difficult because the body has not built out the pathways to do it. So that's why we lean in so gently. But then here especially, we're seeing the other side of it, that the exercise can feed around and help the fasting so much. And this is what is really beautiful. Like we were saying, we just think of exercise as just burning off the calories, but like it can help us keep more from coming in. It's like widening that calorie deficit, help us widen the fasting space, dialing in on the hormones so much. That's what's fascinating to me. Really helping us change the hormonal structure in the body. And then I just love the cycle, okay? Every time we make it through a cycle like that, doing the work, getting the exercise in, as it's doing that, whether it's fasting or not fasting, okay? As we're doing the exercise cycle, helping us get that leptin dialed in, which is really fascinating to think about. So fasting plus exercise, such a powerful combination, not just a tool to reduce appetite in some vague way. You know, this is what a lot of the literature is focused on. There's not a lot of literature, and I read, I don't know, I looked through 20 some studies yesterday. None of them are like, use exercise to help you fast. Like that's not a perspective that is there. It's like use exercise to just help your appetite to be a little less, so while you keep eating all the time, maybe you will eat a little bit less during that, and that'll help you lose weight. Okay, that's the broad weight loss idea of society in general. Lose weight by continuing to eat all the time. And in the best, studies that I look at, none of them are like, use fasting as this, use exercise as this incredible tool to help you fast. But when you do that, this is just like so synergistic. Do you see what I am saying? When you use it this way, then everything is maximized. Our exercise becomes better. Our fasting becomes ideally easier, which means we can do more of it. Then we're like burning up calories, yes, and less are coming in. It's like this is just such a path that works together. And I think it is absolutely the way to go for some people. Okay, for some people, if someone is like, exercise is just not my thing. I've seen your 2 days of really hitting on exercise, but for me, okay, I'm not in the space. No pressure. Okay, no pressure. I'm excited about it. Okay, so you see my enthusiasm, but like wherever everybody is at, for a certain place, okay, fasting is a place to start. You don't have to do any exercise at all to have incredible benefit and success from fasting. I just want to make that totally clear at the end. So much pressure in our society to have to get a gym membership, to be burning out, to do all these things, and we have this. And so to me, I just want to say, let fasting take the pressure off. You don't have to do anything. This is the incredible beauty of a fasting space. You don't have to do anything. And the real work of fasting is just the work of doing nothing. I say let fasting do the work. We can just sit in a space, no exercise required. And as we're doing that, the metabolism is continuing to function. Heart is beating. It's like a furnace inside of us. Is 98 inside of here and 70 out there. This energy is always being consumed to run that system. And so you open up some fasting space and the energy is going to flow, and all the kinks that we have in the metabolism, the stuck spots, the body's going to start working on it in that space. And so that's a foundation to me. To me, we start with fasting and then we add in healthy food on top of it. So whatever our pattern is, those are the two places I would always start. Practicing the fasting space, letting the body grow in metabolic strength, and then adding the healthy food on top of it is how I see it, that supports the core nutrition, the protein, the nutrients that we need to have energy and strength. And then as we are locking those down, then I would say, can the exercise come in as a joyful expression, just to do things that we love and have fun and bring joy and positivity to life? That's how exercise should be brought as a mindset. It doesn't have to carry the whole load of all this. This is what has been so crazy to me, is to think about when we put the exercise first and we don't have any fasting space and we're eating all the time. And like you're saying, it's like even when we're exercising and people are just loading themselves up with sugar packets and bars and special supplements, it is so crazy use of this stuff. Yeah. To have to exercise through all that is like really crazy. And then it's like you feel, okay, why is it so hard? Why am I not making progress? It's like I have to exercise through 900 calories of sugar before we even get to the base. Yeah, but then you're sitting there fasting. I know I've had that thought. Like I said, I've done a lot of fasting competitions, fasting half marathon, fasting century bike ride. I've done multiple half marathons. And it is wild to see there every station, the Gatorade, the goos, the things, and just to realize, this is why I say fasting is an empowering process, to actually realize how much energy is right here in the body at our disposal. Like I could literally run to the next town myself just by the power within myself. I could bike a quarter of the way across the state, is a really empowering sort of thing. And I just say that, not that anyone has to do that. Like I'm talking, this is extreme fasting exercise. Okay, that is like top, not even top level, but for me is top level. But the type of thing that I'm mainly talking about for everybody is just taking a walk, basically, as a place to start is good enough, okay? And can we bring this in a simple way that just helps us to lean in and grow it? I'm sharing my experience just to kind of stretch people's perspective and realize the type of things that are possible. Yeah, this is a great irony at the races. The beer tents, is so funny to me. And I guess if there's a time to do it, you just ran a race, maybe it is, you're going to definitely tolerate it better. But I can't imagine personally. Oh. Not for me, I would say not for me, for sure. So, fasting cheat code, that's what I titled this session. Do you think it's true? Do you find it to be true in your life? Can it become that, a fasting cheat code, where it's like you use the exercise to blast out the hunger experience? So synergistic, burning up extra energy and keeping more from coming in. That is a cheat code, if there ever is one. And the thing I love about it, completely natural, totally free, does not have risks like taking pharmaceutical substances or doing something else. It's not some crazy supplement like, oh, if you take this special powder, and then, it's just the physiology of the body, That's what I love. Body wants to be healthy. Body wants to have energy. Body is meant to move and do things. And a fasting space is something, if you feel, I'm just stuck in a space, I can't do it. Let fasting unlock it, especially if someone is struggling with a lot of weight to lose. I usually have people lean way in on the fasting first. Lean way in on fasting and nutrition and bring the weight down first through this process, dialing that in. So that it's easier on the body to get more active. And I've seen a lot of people try to do it the other way, especially people very much weight to lose, and you start pounding on the pavement, and it's not pleasant for many people. Everybody do what is right for their situation. But to me, I say take the pressure off. Really dial in on a fasting space. Lean into that 16-8 sort of space. Lean in, start tightening it up. If you can get to an OMAD sort of space, just eating once in a day and finding a groove with that, all of a sudden we're opening up tons of space. And then the hormones are changing. Then the insulin resistance is getting out of the way. So we actually start to get access to that body fat in an easier way. Once you're in a groove with that, you're seeing the scale going down with that, you're feeling the hormonal changes, hunger is resetting and getting better, then is when I start to say, okay, now start bringing in more of the movement, and that will really start feeding forward then, in a way. Always leaning in, always gentle on the mindset. Doesn't always have to be gentle on the body. You can exercise very hard, but just once you've leaned into it, right? Okay, here we are. Start of the fasting and summer weight loss challenge. We're just either day 1 for some people if you're coming in and starting out, or we're day 3. However we are, this is weight loss season in the summer. And take it a day at a time. Be thoughtful with it, and let's keep moving forward together on it. Really nice to share this space with you. Thursday already today, and then we got Friday. We're heading into the weekend. So I will look forward to touching base, another session tomorrow to round out our week and keep us stepping forward in health. Have a great day, everybody.